There is a particular kind of loneliness that nobody talks about, and it is the loneliness of lying next to someone every night and feeling absolutely nothing. Not pain, not joy, not even resentment, just a hollow, quiet emptiness that you have learned to mistake for peace. If you have ever woken up beside a person and spent the first few seconds of consciousness wondering how you got there, not just physically but emotionally, then this video is for you. Because what I am about to tell you might be the most honest thing anyone has said to you in years. And by the end, you will understand something about yourself that most women spend an entire lifetime refusing to see. You are not staying because you love him. You're staying because leaving feels more terrifying than the numbness you have made your home. Let us sit with that for a moment before we go any further. There is a phenomenon in psychology called the status quo bias. It is the deeply human tendency to prefer the current state of affairs simply because it is familiar, not because it is good. Your brain, which is a magnificent and also maddeningly risk-averse organ, registers change as threat. It does not distinguish between good change and bad change. It simply knows that what is unknown consumes more energy, demands more resources, and creates more uncertainty. And so, in its quiet efficiency, your brain keeps you right where you are and whispers to you that this is fine, that this is enough, that maybe love always feels like this after a while. But here is what your brain is not telling you. Comfort is not the same as love. Routine is not the same as connection, and a person who once meant everything to you can become nothing more than a habit, a social structure, a shared Netflix account, and a morning coffee ritual, without either of you fully realizing it happened. Think about how habits form in the first place. In neuroscience, the process is called the habit loop, and it was described in detail by researchers studying basal ganglia function. Every habit consists of three components: a cue, a routine, and a reward. In the early stages of a relationship, the reward was enormous. Dopamine flooded your system when you saw his name on your phone. Oxytocin surged when he touched your hand. Serotonin rose when he laughed at something you said. Your brain was building a neural pathway as real and as physical as any road, and it told you, this person equals reward. Go back, go back, go back. The problem is that neural pathways do not dissolve when the feeling does. The road remains even when the destination has changed. So you keep walking it, not because it leads somewhere beautiful anymore, but because you have walked it so many thousands of times that deviating from it requires a kind of conscious, painful effort that most people simply do not want to make on a Tuesday morning when there are dishes in the sink and work emails piling up. This is the neuroscience of staying too long, and I need you to understand this not so that you can excuse yourself from responsibility, but so that you can stop being so hard on yourself for not leaving sooner. You were not weak, you were wired.
Now, let us talk about what this actually looks like in real life, because theory is beautiful, but it does not help you unless you can see yourself in it. Imagine a woman named Sarah. She has been with her partner for 7 years. They met in their mid-20s, and in those early years, he was the person she could not stop thinking about. She would replay conversations with him on the drive home from work. She would choose her outfits based on whether she might see him. She laughed harder with him than with anyone else, and felt seen in a way she had never felt before. She loved him, genuinely and completely. Somewhere around year 3 or 4, things shifted. Not dramatically, not in the way of a betrayal or a crisis, but slowly, like a photograph left in the sun. The colors faded, the urgency disappeared. She stopped looking forward to weekends the way she used to. She started planning girls' trips, not because she wanted adventure, but because she wanted relief. She told herself they were just in a comfortable phase. She told herself this was what mature love looked like. She told herself this was normal. By year 7, Sarah could not remember the last time she had cried over him, good tears or bad. She could not remember the last time she had reached for him in the night because she wanted to, not out of obligation or habit. They were kind to each other, they were functional.
They shared a lease and a friend group and a dog named Cooper, and the thought of dismantling all of it felt so enormous, so utterly exhausting, that she simply kept going, one day at a time, 1 year at a time. Sarah is not a tragic figure. She is one of millions. She might be you. The question you have to ask yourself, the one that most women spend years avoiding, is this: if you met him today for the first time, knowing everything you now know about how you feel, would you choose him? Not out of loyalty, not out of history, not out of the fear of starting over. Would you genuinely, freely choose this person? If your answer requires a long pause, if it comes wrapped in qualifiers and conditions and explanations, that answer is already telling you something important. Beyond the neurological habit loop, there is another layer to this that operates more in the domain of identity. Psychologists who study long-term relationships have found that one of the most powerful reasons people stay in relationships that no longer serve them is what researchers call identity fusion. Over time, especially in relationships where two people have built a life together, your sense of self becomes entangled with the relationship itself. You stop thinking of yourself as an individual with desires and a trajectory, and you start thinking of yourself as a unit, half of something. And the terrifying implication of leaving is not just losing him, it is losing the version of yourself that was defined in relation to him. Who are you if you are not his girlfriend, his partner, his wife? What does Sunday morning look like when it is just yours? These questions, which should feel like freedom, instead feel like falling. And so women stay not because they love the man, but because they are afraid of discovering that without the relationship, they no longer know who they are. This is one of the most painful and most honest things I can tell you. Sometimes we hold on to relationships the way we hold on to old clothes that no longer fit, not because we want to wear them, but because throwing them away means admitting that the person we were when we bought them no longer exists. And grieving that person, grieving who you were when the love was real, is sometimes harder than staying in the relationship itself. Advancing to another dimension of this, let us talk about what habit-based relationships actually cost you, because it is not just your happiness on the line. Research in social psychology consistently shows that people in emotionally unfulfilling relationships, even stable, conflict-free ones, show elevated levels of chronic stress hormones. Cortisol, the body's primary stress chemical, tends to remain elevated in people who are in states of low-grade emotional dissatisfaction, not because they are in a crisis, but because part of them knows, on a level below conscious thought, that something is wrong. And chronic cortisol elevation is not abstract. It affects your immune function. It affects your sleep architecture. It affects your mood regulation and your capacity for joy. You can be perfectly calm on the surface and quietly unraveling underneath.
There is also the opportunity cost that nobody wants to calculate. Every year you spend in a relationship you have outgrown is a year you are not spending building something new, not available to meet someone who could ignite something in you that you have forgotten was possible, not investing in the version of your life that your truest self is quietly starving for. The sunk cost fallacy, the idea that you should continue something because you have already invested so much in it, is one of the most financially and emotionally destructive thinking patterns that humans possess. The time you have already given cannot be recovered. The only question worth asking is what you will do with the time you have left. Now, I want to address something that often comes up when a woman begins to realize she is in this situation, and that is the guilt, the crushing, suffocating guilt of thinking, but he has not done anything wrong. He is a good person. He loves me. How can I leave someone who has done nothing wrong? Here is the thing about that guilt. It is real, and it speaks well of you that you feel it, but it is also, in many cases, a trap.
Because the idea that you can only leave a relationship if someone has been terrible to you is one of the most damaging myths that women in particular have been taught to believe. You do not need a villain to justify your exit. You do not need to have been wronged to have the right to want more. Staying in a relationship out of guilt is not kindness. It is a slow cruelty, both to yourself and eventually to him, because it denies him the possibility of finding someone who genuinely chooses him, someone whose heart races a little when he walks into the room, someone who is there because she wants to be, not because she does not know how to leave. Imagine for a moment this scenario. He comes home one evening and asks you, genuinely, tenderly, if you are happy. And imagine that for 1 second your carefully maintained composure slips, and you have to choose between the truth and the performance. What comes out of you in that moment? Do you say yes automatically, the way you say it to colleagues when they ask how you are? Or does something complicated move across your face before you gather yourself? That moment of hesitation, that split second before the performance resumes, is the most honest part of you trying to communicate something the rest of you is not ready to hear. On the other hand, it is also important to be honest about something else. Not every period of emotional flatness in a long-term relationship means the love is gone. Relationships move through seasons, and there are legitimate dry periods, stretches of disconnection that can be rebuilt with intention, therapy, open conversation, and genuine effort from both partners. The difference between a relationship in a difficult season and a relationship built on habit rather than love lies in what you feel when you imagine that rebuild. Does the thought of working on this relationship fill you with something like hope, even tentative, fragile hope, or does it fill you with exhaustion and a quiet dread? The answer to that question is more diagnostic than any test a therapist could give you.
There is another case worth considering here. Think of a woman named Diana, 42 years old, 20 years into a marriage, 3 children, a house that took a decade to finish renovating. She told her therapist that she felt like she had disappeared so gradually that she had not noticed it happening. She said that she loved her husband the way she loved the town she grew up in, with familiarity and a kind of nostalgic warmth, but without any desire to stay there. She said she could not remember the last time she had told him something true about herself, not because he was unkind, but because over the years, the versions of herself she shared with him had calcified into a character she no longer recognized. She was playing a role that had been written so long ago she had forgotten she was performing. What Diana eventually came to understand, after a great deal of painful self-examination, was that leaving was not the same as failing, that the grief she felt was not evidence that she had made the wrong choice, that rebuilding her life at 42, though terrifying and lonely in the beginning, was the first genuinely honest thing she had done in years. She told her therapist, 6 months after she moved out, that she had forgotten what it felt like to wake up and feel curious about her own day. That is what living looks like when you are no longer managing a habit. That is what you have been slowly losing, possibly without even knowing it. So what do you actually do with all of this? I want to be honest with you. I am not going to tell you to leave or to stay. That is not my decision to make, and anyone who gives you a definitive answer about your specific relationship without knowing you is selling you something. What I can tell you is this. The first and most necessary step is the one that most people skip entirely, and that is radical honesty with yourself. Not the honesty you perform in your journal or share strategically with your best friend, but the kind that sits alone with you in the shower at 6 in the morning and does not flinch. Ask yourself the questions that make you uncomfortable. Not just, am I happy, which is too broad to be useful, but do I feel emotionally close to this person, or do I feel alone in his presence? When something wonderful happens to me, is he the first person I want to tell? When I imagine my future, does he appear in it naturally, or does he appear because I have been unable to imagine an alternative?
Am I afraid of being without him, or am I afraid of being alone? Because those are very different fears, and confusing them has kept more women in the wrong relationship than almost anything else. If, after that honest examination, you find that what you have is a relationship worth fighting for, then fight for it, with your full self, without reservation, and ideally with the help of a skilled couples therapist who can create the conditions for real reconnection. Some of the most profound love stories involve a pair of people who went through a desert together and found water on the other side. But if you find, in that quiet and honest place, that what you have is a life you have organized around someone who no longer holds your heart, then give yourself permission to name that. Not to destroy it immediately, not to blow everything up in an afternoon, but simply to know it. Because the moment you stop lying to yourself is the moment your real life can begin to take shape, even if that shape is still uncertain and a little frightening. You deserve to be in a relationship where you are genuinely present, not just logistically accounted for. You deserve to love someone and to feel that love as a living, breathing thing, not a fossilized memory of what you once felt. You deserve to choose your life consciously, not to continue it out of inertia and fear. The woman you are capable of being is waiting on the other side of this honesty. She has been patient, she has been quiet, but she has not given up on you. If this video landed somewhere real inside you, if it said something you have been carrying but have not been able to name, I want you to write one word in the comments: clarity. Just that word. It will tell me that you are here, that you heard this, and that you are ready to begin seeing your own life more honestly. And if you want to continue this conversation, if you want to go deeper into the psychology of love, identity, and what it means to build a life that is truly yours, then subscribe, because this channel exists for exactly the woman you are becoming.